All right, well, let's get started here. This is the Smart Energy Analytics Campaign Fall Recognition presentations of all the folks that have been recognized by the campaign this fall in the New Installation Award category. So we're excited to share their stories with you. They're sharing their own stories. We're glad to have them here as presenters. Just a few quick announcements at the beginning. This is the team. Many of you have seen this team before. You've been on these calls. We are recording this call. We'll be sending out the slides and the recording to all those that registered for the call. And there will be a Q&A section at the end, but you can send in your questions at any point. So please send in your questions early to make sure they get answered. All right, so some quick announcements on the campaign. Most of you are quite well aware of how the campaign has been running over the last 3 years. We provide technical support for owners implementing EMIS and monitoring-based commissioning, and we get data from those owners and publish anonymously all that data in aggregate on cost, savings, use, and all sorts of different things about what types of measures are being implemented. We have the recognition program, which this is a part of. We also have spring awards. There'll be one more round of awards in the spring in a number of different categories, so stay tuned for that. And our participation to date, we hit the 100 organization mark. That's almost all our organizations that are large portfolios or medium-sized portfolios, and we have over 100 supporting partners. It's been a really successful campaign, so we really want to thank you all for being a part of it. It is coming to a close, however, and at the end of this year is our deadline to sign up to be a participant in the campaign. We are running the campaign through the end of spring awards, and then we'll be transitioning into this thing called the Better Buildings Alliance EMIS Tech Team, which is kind of a lighter version of the campaign. We still have some peer networking, we have webinars, we have information and resource sharing, but no more awards and no more like specific updates to the research that we're bringing in. So we'll have one more final report on all the research findings next year. Just so you know, we have the year 3 results available. We had a webinar last month summarizing what we're finding for the year 3 outcomes of the campaign and what the campaign participants are doing at their buildings with EMIS. It's really great that we have so much more data this year. So this is just a few snapshots. You can see all the details in the report and on the webinar and the recording. So we have, on the cost side, over 60 different cost data points, including base cost, recurring, and so forth. So you can kind of see how you stack up against other costs out there. And always contact us with questions on these types of resources. Our previous campaign participants, we have quite a few participants that have been recognized since our first set of awards that occurred in May of 2017. So I just want to give a quick shout out to these organizations for their hard work in implementing EMIS, and to point you to the success stories around these organizations. We have 2-pagers summarizing what they've done at their buildings, and it really sort of tries to say in a nutshell what differentiates them and why they got their award. So please check that out. And now, the main event. We have a really great group of organizations being recognized in the webinar today. We have 4 awards we're going to go through and give each person about 8 to 10 minutes of presentation. They have a lot of good visuals, so we're excited to hear their stories. And then again, we'll have time for Q&A. So get your questions in. Elliot is going to be monitoring them. And if there's like a burning question at the end of an individual presentation, he'll chime in with that. Otherwise, we'll ask all those questions at the end. All right, so we're going to start off. I'm going to just give a quick overview of our first award winner, which is for new installation of fault detection and diagnostics in healthcare. So we're excited to have a healthcare sector owner winning a new installation award for the first time in the campaign. We have another healthcare sector also we'll talk about at the end. So healthcare seems to be a growing market sector for EMIS, which is exciting. At the beginning of the campaign, we didn't have any hospitals doing it, and now we have quite a few in our campaign participant list. So Swedish Medical Center implemented FD&D using the EMIS Platform at 3 hospital campuses for 2.8 million square feet. And they joined the campaign last summer. They were in the process of implementing at their first campus. So we're excited that they've expanded significantly in a pretty short amount of time. So MacDonald-Miller has a performance contract with Swedish Medical Center to deliver savings over 5 years of FD&D use. We don't see a lot of performance contracts, but it's exciting to see it kind of put into a guaranteed savings framework, and they're going to share more about how that works with you here on this call. A couple other highlights I'll just mention that were special to note about them is that they use Iconics in conjunction with Microsoft Power BI, so a business intelligence tool for management level reporting. A lot of these tools need to have data streams from different sources integrated and put into a really nice report. So they're going to show you, I believe they're going to show you an example of what that report looks like. And then they're also integrating into Swedish Medical's work order management system, or their CMMS, so that they can generate work orders related to the faults in a more streamlined way. So with that introduction, I just want to say congratulations to Swedish Medical Center and in their partnership with MacDonald-Miller Facility Solutions. And we're joined by Chris Sembrowski, the Senior Building Performance Specialist from MacDonald-Miller, to share more about what they're doing there. So Chris, I'm going to give you your first slide here.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Claire. That's a great introduction. And good morning, everyone. And like she said, my name is Chris Sembrowski, and I'm part of the Smart Buildings team here at MacDonald-Miller Facility Solutions here in Seattle. And we are extremely honored to be part of this program today, and really excited to be sharing with you the work that's being done at all these different Swedish Medical Center campuses. They really do have a great team of dedicated individuals that are always looking for innovative ways to help maintain their patient health and comfort and safety, yet they're also challenged with finding ways to cut costs and reduce their carbon footprint. So it's been a fun project to work on, and as you mentioned, we are just nearing the end of year one. But how do we get into this process to begin with? So first of all, going into this project, Swedish was looking for a partner, and so they set out a set of specific goals for a competitive bid process. And as you can see here, they had some very important things they were trying to accomplish. They wanted to improve their financial performance by decreasing their operation and utility costs. They want to reduce their overhead. They've got to extend the life of the facility that's been there for decades, and even as they build new facilities, they still have to maintain existing infrastructure that's aging out and needs attention. So they also provided other ways to incentivize. They wanted to have whoever came in share in the energy savings at a certain level, and they wanted whoever came in to talk to the utility companies to identify and find programs that would provide rebates to help also incentivize and reduce the overall cost of the contract, and with the effort of making it a win-win for both parties, for everyone that's involved. Ideally, they were looking for someone that has healthcare experience, and which MacDonald-Miller does. We've got a dedicated healthcare team with some great individuals who have developed great relationships across Swedish campuses and other healthcare facilities in the region. And obviously, you got to have some people that have great building analytics experience, fault detection experience, and MacDonald-Miller, we're a full-service mechanical firm, and so we fit all those bills, and we like to say that we are constantly pushing the edge, and so it's been a great project to team up with Swedish on this front. And so, once we got into the project, we did have some additional challenges of implementation. They have several different control platforms, and of course we had to make sure all that data was handled carefully and securely as we brought that up to the Azure-based platform where we run our iconic software. And so we were fortunate to be able to expand our relationship with Swedish, not just on the mechanical service side, but to be a partner with them as we brought their system online with our Iconics platform. So let's go ahead and show you on the next slide what it looks like as we get into the day-to-day of their operations. So on a daily basis, or when they go into the Iconics platform, they first log in, and what we see, we can quickly see the total faults that are active across the portfolio. We can see a breakdown of by building of the worst case annual lost opportunity and what the utility spend dollars would be, as well as the number of active faults per building. And then below, we could see an aggregated list of all the faults that we recorded in the past week. So we've chosen to bring this forward and highlight the highest cost faults at the top and provide them the opportunity to sort and filter by each column header here in that table there. It's important to bring to the top which pieces of equipment would be costing the most in terms of utility spend, because that was one of the main goals for this program, is to reduce overall costs. So these may not all be comfort issues at the top, but they're definitely high dollar value when it comes to particular pieces of equipment. As you can see, like an unoccupied fan operation, that would definitely drive dollars up unnecessarily or needlessly so. Moving on forward, if we want to go one slide ahead, they can then follow that path down into each individual building and get some deeper insights. And at this building level, we provide a quick set of KPIs on the left with some high-level values to give them a quick glance at that particular building to get them so they can see exactly where they are and remind themselves that, okay, you're at this facility versus that facility. How many square feet am I looking at? How many faults are currently active on my air handling units that are high priority? And then what we also see is a quick view of all the different air handlers that could be on different platforms, different control systems. But in this case, I think these are all Johnson Control units at this particular building. And so we see a quick view of all those with a live snapshot of units that have active faults in red. We can see the statuses of the fans. We can see the temperatures versus set points, valve positions, static pressures in their set points. And then below, we see the individual incidents of the faults that are listed below. I do apologize for that sound. There's nearby. So by each fault, what's great about these incidents is that each fault provides an estimated worst case cost, and time duration of those faults, and the start and stop time of when those faults occurred. Additionally, within each incident, we're able to provide the details to them about what the fault algorithm is in plain text, as well as in the Excel style code, so they can make a better determination of what the actual problem might be. And we also show them the value of the data points at the time when the fault occurred. We can also take in some comments on those incidents. They can flag them as acknowledged, perform the corrective action, then return back to these pieces of equipment within the Iconics platform and mark them as resolved to track the work accomplished. And then on the next slide, we also were focusing on what their daily workflow looks like. And in order to fully integrate across their workforce, we are still implementing this actually, but this is what we're doing, is to get all these faults integrated into their CMMS platform. This way, when we have our Monday morning meetings, when the engineers who do not have access to the analytics on a routine basis, they'll start to see these work orders pop up on their mobile devices and know that they come directly from Iconics. The engineers will get all the same notes, comments that we entered in the Iconics software, and that way they're armed with the same information, then all the information they need to take action, address the issue, and help the facility save energy. And then when they close out the work order, the feedback comes from the CMS system back to the analytics platform and allows us to track and give credit to the great work that they're doing out there to save energy. And then on the next slide, when it comes to tracking that energy savings, we take all those data points when it comes from the Economics platform, anytime they've taken some action to acknowledge or resolve a fault, we can then estimate the amount of dollars that they saved or avoided spending. We can also look to see what's available in terms of what's still out there to take action on. And then the real proof is in the utility dollars. And trying to answer, okay, are you actually saving energy in dollars? The answer is most definitely yes. We're able to show that this year, in the first 9 months of this program, that we've had nearly $200,000 in savings once we adjusted for weather at the meter, and we can conservatively say that over a quarter of those savings were based on the actions taken within the analytics platform. But we're still not stopping there because we still see plenty of opportunity to make these buildings perform better as we're striving to get an EUI. I think it's possible to get us an EUI in the 150 range. So right now we're hovering around 169 and we're on our way down. Next slide, please. So overall, if we take all that into account and we've created them, our results have been pretty incredible in my opinion. We've got a new rhythm of business with our partners out there, not just from the internal maintenance staff. We've also gotten great support from various control vendors that have been brought into these meetings. We've got major project support from across all of our MacDonald-Miller business units that provide work between mechanical and electrical vendors as well as the Johnson Control vendors and Allerton vendors that come in and provide support. We've got a guarantee savings target for the life of the program. And we're looking at actually, although an initial life of the program is to have like a $750,000 in savings by the end of year 5, and it looks like we're going to hit our target within 2.5 years. And what's great a part of that is that we've also applied for and we are part of the pay for utility program. Show savings at the meter to get identified. Additionally, within the city of Seattle, we also are held to a higher, stricter standard of commissioning and retro commissioning, and having all of our actions tracked and monitored within the Economics platform. It allows us to show compliance to those local regulations and the government officials. So, and just in conclusion, I just wanted to thank all of our partners at Swedish Medical Center across each campus. Specifically thanking our MacDonald-Miller healthcare team and our smart buildings team and the multiple control vendors that have all benefited from participating in this program. And thank you to you folks at Lawrence Berkeley for allowing us to highlight today what we've been able to accomplish here in Seattle.
Great, Chris. Thanks so much. I'm just going to ask one quick follow-up question. Which CMS are you working to integrate with? The
name escapes me at the moment.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Oh yeah, no, I will get that to you at the end of the call if I can.
Okay, that was one of the questions from the folks. So maybe we'll circle back to that. All right, great. Thanks so much, Chris. In the interest of time, we're going to keep moving on. Our next awardee is LBA Realty. LBA has a unique installation of combined energy information system, fault detection and diagnostic system, and automated system optimization using Yardi Pulse Suite. And they currently have 1.2 million square feet and are adding another about 3 million additional square feet to their portfolio using Yardi. So they're going to tell us more about this automated system optimization process, but they really feel like that supervisory control and real-time continuously altering the set points without them having to interact with the tool like you need to with FDD because it's a fault that's flagged, gives them good value out of the ASO. So they're going to tell us more about that. They do have FDD with faults that are running down to the air handler level, and their EIS also has an embedded energy model to estimate savings relative to a baseline, as do a lot of the other tools as well. So their combined EIS, FD&D, ASO platform has dashboards that provide a real comprehensive look at what the building is doing. So I want to congratulate LBA Realty, represented here by Michelle German, Director of Operations and Sustainability, and Roman Gunther, Director of Engineering. And their presentation, I believe, will also be supported by CP Pitones from Yardi, but I'm not sure if he's on the call. So I will just let you take it away, Michelle.
Thank you, and thank you for the intro. And we do have CP here, so he'll be presenting with us.
Great.
So we could click ahead to the next slide, please. I think we're still on the first one.
It's showing for me. Is it
there we
for
go.
Others?
Sorry, there must have been a delay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Delay.
So before we jump into our project overview, I always like to kind of take a step back and give an overview of who LBA is and what our sustainability strategy is for the company. So LBA is a full-service real estate investment company, and we are currently 56 million square feet of office and industrial in major markets throughout the U.S. And so our sensible sustainability strategy, we don't like to just coin it as sustainability strategy. We call it sensible because we really take a look at sustainability from not only an environmental standpoint, but also from a business case standpoint. So we execute first and foremost on our business case for sustainability within our portfolio, and we really look at taking a strategic approach, and we consider cost weighted against benefits in the context of improved performance, enhanced operating efficiency, employee recruitment and retention, risk mitigation, our corporate identity, and our brand and our leadership. So our KPIs and goals are always focused around energy, water, and waste efficiencies, renewable energy, clean tech, innovative technologies, and health and wellness, and we have accomplished a lot in all of those areas within our portfolio to date. So we have a long-term commitment within our program, and so we committed to the DOE's Better Building Challenge with their 10-year commitment to improve our energy intensity across the portfolio by at least 20%. So to date, we're currently on track with that. We're hitting an annual percentage improvement of 3.42% and a cumulative improvement in excess of 14% through 2018. So we're more than on track to reach that goal. Just to give you some results, when we closed out the 2018 year, obviously we don't have our 2019 yet, we had a site energy use reduction of 3% or a 12.8 million KBTU savings, and then a source energy use reduction of 4.7% or 59.8 million KBTU reduction. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my technical experts here. So Roman Gunther, our Director of Engineering, will take you through a little bit of the project itself.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Michelle. So LBA's goal was to automate our entire office platform using a united platform, and we wanted to do that with a phased approach that helped create kind of a seamless transition. And after researching some different platforms, we realized that what we were looking for in particular was a tool that provided a more robust solution than simply serving up large quantities of data. And even though real-time data is invaluable, we were looking for something that would transform that information into an actionable solution, and which was our ultimate goal. So our first experience with an active energy solution was part of a larger energy retrofit project that we completed here at Park Place in Irvine. And all said and done, we were able to achieve about a 30% reduction in energy when we completed that. Now, that was a hardware and a software solution, but that was our first experience, and it's what led us down this path. At that point, we identified 8 additional buildings in our portfolio as candidates that were part of a smart software platform. Next slide, please.
There's a delay on it.
Okay, so to date, we've completed 4 buildings, the ones listed, with a total of 1.2 million square feet. So as part of this process, phase 1 was to establish the connectivity to the building systems, first to collect real-time electrical consumption data, and secondly, to integrate with the building automation system. We then use that data, the trends from that data, to create a baseline. Phase 2, once the system had been baseline and evaluated, the active software component is added to help make the smart decisions and the real-time adjustments to the mechanical equipment and set points. So where we find the beauty in this system is the fact that it tends to be pretty hands-off in terms of our operators are not trying to take this data and turn it into an actionable deal. The software is making these real-time adjustments minute by minute. So in 2019, our year-to-date KWH savings are $402,102 with a projected ROI of 19.03%. Next slide, please. And this next slide will show you the four buildings that we currently have active on the systems and the projected annual savings and the cost savings and our carbon reduction. So I'm going to turn this over to CP, and he's going to take you to where we're headed in the future.
So what this slide represents are the next cluster of buildings that we will be targeting. And what I'm going to do is kind of frame it in the lessons learned. And really what we have learned from the prior projects that we have done was that including and how to include the entire organization and really identify what the roles are within the organization. It's really having a consistent message that can be communicated up to the executives and then down to the site staffs as well. So as you can see, we have the next version of buildings is 3.1 million additional square footage. How could we then tackle and really say from going from 1.2 up to 3 million, we're doubling down on the number of properties. So what can we do to become more efficient? And that's really utilizing the entire team, the LBA team, which Michelle and Roman oversee, in communicating the message properly. And what we try to do as program drivers, not project drivers, but program drivers, is to make sure that communication is consistent across the entire organization. So what we have learned is get in front of communicating with the IT folks. Also, having an understanding of what other programs are out there from a utilities perspective side of things. And then making sure that we have all CapEx projects. We have come to find out that there are some central plant enhancements that are occurring at the same time as we're implementing our software. So how to work around those logistics. And to Chris's point, it's very important to communicate that down to the vendors that are also involved as part of these projects. So really becoming an extension of LBA's organization, not looking upon us as a vendor, but more as a partner. Therefore, the message that we're communicating would be the same message as if Michelle, Roman, and the corporate team would be communicating. So those are the kind of things that's going to allow us to continue to drive value and ultimately meet the savings as we are now projecting, a much larger utility savings. Therefore, their positive cash flow increases, and then their ROI looks much more sustainable and better to their investors. So with that, it pretty much wraps up our entire program and how we go approaching the entire solution package.
Great. Thank you, Michelle, Roman, and CP. Really impressive work there. I should just note that we only have a couple of participants in the campaign that have implemented automated system optimization and that automated set point optimization that you talked about. And so it's great to see that those newer technologies are getting out there and being used effectively at buildings. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. I will move on to Vanderbilt University. So Vanderbilt implemented Building Logic's FD&D software on over 1 million square feet of their buildings on campus. They have a relationship with their monitoring-based commissioning service provider, Building Logix, that supports them through a process where they dig into the faults and propose solutions and really help support the Vanderbilt staff who doesn't really have the time and capacity to dig into everything. This is a common situation amongst lots of owners we work with. So when they bring on a new building, the process is that the provider, the Building Logix, works with them to pretty much do like a retro commissioning project and dive deep and summarize the findings that they get out of their FD&D system. And then they work through these findings with the staff. And then after the initial phase, they do a quarterly assessment. So it's kind of an interesting way they've partnered with Building Logix to get the kind of support they need. One other real interesting thing that Darren will tell you about here is their chilled water plant optimization dashboard that Darren has been working on within Building Logix that displays like chiller plant KPIs and different charts to help him optimize the chilled water plant. And they're trying to get to that level of kind of automated system optimization level of savings, but without doing the supervisory control. So Darren will tell you more about that. So congratulations to Vanderbilt for really their excellent work implementing FD&D. And as they expand on their campus, we're excited to hear more from them. Today we have Darren Bevel from Vanderbilt's Campus Energy Manager to explain more about what they're doing there. Darren?
Well, thank you very much, Claire. I will expand on something that you mentioned with respect to being shorthanded. I represent exactly 50% of the metering and energy management office. So to say that there's a lot of opportunity for reaching out and trying to gain value from a fault detection platform is a bit of an understatement. So what you see here on the graphic is a screenshot from our fault detection system. You see the dashboard, and overlaid is our Vanderbilt Peabody Commons building, and you see the building statistics. And this building represents one of about 9 buildings that we already have in the fault detection platform. And our approach has been a bit of a phased approach. As you mentioned, we started with a pilot project, and then phased in 1 or 2 buildings at a time as we had the opportunity to implement the findings, which generated a savings flow, which in turn allowed us to point to the results and bring that back to the administration and push us forward with respect to what it is we're trying to do. So next slide, please. So to sort of summarize where we are here, the challenges that we face, we've got about 7 million square feet of campus and central plant, cogeneration plant infrastructure to maintain. And obviously the manpower and analytical expertise it takes to sort through all the data that we now have through all our automated systems is obviously an issue. What we're trying to accomplish with our fault detection, instead of retro commissioning, what we like to call is performance commissioning. So rather than to bring our buildings back to that middle of the road position that they were in during design, we're trying to be much more aggressive with respect to trying to identify opportunities to really push the savings envelope. And I will say that Vanderbilt University has embraced some pretty significant sustainability goals, and the root of that whole sustainability effort is obviously in pushing the energy consumption at the building level down to as low as possible. So this fault detection platform, and what you see here is a little bit of a graphic at the bottom that sort of shows how we tie all of our systems together. We have a Rockwell system that's out here in our central plant that brings all the powerhouse data together, which includes all the steam production and fuel consumption information. Web Control and Metasys are our 2 building automation systems, and then we have a lot of DDC type electric meters scattered across campus. The Niagara platform that Building Logix runs on is the backnet communication device that funnels all the information to the Vanderbilt data warehouse, which is also the fault detection platform. And frankly, our fault detection grew from a meter data warehouse project where we were trying to consolidate all our meter data information. Next slide, please. So this is the opportunity, or this is a scorecard page from the fault detection program. And that note about generating actionable intelligence, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we look in and dig in and identify the opportunities to actually generate some savings. So next slide, please. If you click on one of the buildings, from the list on the left-hand side, up pops a view of the building, and you can select all the different equipment components. This is just a snapshot of, green is good and red is bad. So this is the opportunity to identify the opportunities at a glance. Next, please. The Peabody Commons building that we saw the picture of, this is a snapshot of the energy performance before and after some of the retrofit efforts. Some of the work that we've done, you can go ahead and select the next slide, please. So in this project, what we actually saw was something like a 26% energy reduction when we look at the total of chill water, steam, electric for this building. And that's a combination of several things, including steam trap maintenance programs and recommissioning of 5 large air handling units and different strategies for controls, optimization, economizer improvements, and demand control and ventilation. And still several things in progress, so we expect our results to improve yet. So, we talk about what's next for Vanderbilt University, and one of the things that I have been chasing as an energy guy is the opportunity that is in our largest loads on campus, the chillers. And so working with our vendor partner, Building Logics, they were willing to help me develop a quick view, if you will, for our chiller plant team. And the idea is to be able to give them a dashboard that will allow them to recognize the efficiency in the daily operations of the chiller and recognize the opportunities that might exist with a cooling tower or whatever might be affecting the performance. And one of the most powerful aspects of what we have in our fault detection Building Logics platform is the ability to analyze large amounts of data. And, we've got all the information in the building automation systems and Johnson and Web Control, but being able to manage large amounts of data or do the analytics on large blocks of data is obviously not the strong suit of these particular systems. So Building Logics does a great job of doing that. And we're just getting started with this chiller plant tool. This is just really a mock-up. We actually have 9 buildings under fault detection contract right now and 1 chiller plant. So this is sort of our test bed for what we're trying to do here. And frankly, one of the opportunities for us, one of the best things that we've accomplished, and I will admit to being resistant initially to hiring the fault detection folks to help analyze our buildings. But while I aspire to want to create that expertise internally within our different zone teams, the realization that you had to embrace, I needed to embrace some outside help to be able to get to the point where we actually had a work list that we could go and execute and generate real savings at the building level. So you frankly don't save any money until you fix something. So that's really what it comes down to. And with that, I thank you all very much.
Great. Thanks, Darren. And thanks for sharing your insights on being a FDD convert. That's great. Before I move on here, I'm just going to clarify that I don't think I ever introduced myself at the beginning. And when you're on a webinar, you can't see me. So I'm Hannah Kramer from LBAS.
Hannah.
That's all right. That's all right. You don't need to know my voice. All right. So our final, we're not saving the best for last necessarily, but this is a very interesting project with Universal Health Services and in partnership with Grumman Butkus Associates. So it's another kind of monitoring-based commissioning service provider partnership. And the program manager and retro commissioning providers, Grumman Butkus, and they're going to be accepting the award today. So Universal Health Services is a group of another healthcare owner that received a new installation award. We're excited, again, that we have more healthcare involved. And in the past year, they've implemented copper tree analytics at 5 sites, or at 7 sites, sorry, and they've also implemented Lucid Building OS for their utility bill data at 12 sites. So Grimm & Butkus is the service provider. They're traditionally in a more consulting role as an engineering consulting firm, but this project is to really provide more turnkey services for Universal Health Services. So they're holding the contracts with the implementing contractors, which is kind of a unique strategy. So they're installing the FD&D platform, holding the contracts to fix the stuff that they find through the FD&D process. And so this contract mechanism is meant to give more focus and an actual implementation budget up front to correct the issues found. So this is one of the things that can help those operations staff that are stretched thin and don't really have the budget to kind of have a upfront corporate support and funding for the program. So congratulations to UHS and Grimm & Butkus Associates. We have Fiona McCarthy here from Grimm & Butkus. She's a project manager, and she's going to share more. I'll hand it over to Fiona.
Thank you, Hannah. So thank you again for this opportunity to share our successes. I wanted to start out by sharing a little bit more about UHS. There's over 350 acute care hospitals, mostly focusing in behavioral health facilities and ambulatory care centers as well, with their motto being quality health care is our passion, improving lives is our reward. As Hannah mentioned, Grimm & Butkus Associates, we've been around since 1973. Our original name was Enercon for Energy Conservation, and now today we are a full-service MEP firm. We have 5 offices. Our main office is in Illinois. We've got 2 in Wisconsin, 1 in New York, and 1 in Florida. And as Hannah mentioned, we are traditionally primarily a design firm focusing on sustainable design, and but now we've really expanded in the last couple of decades into energy studies as well as retro-commissioning, monitoring-based commissioning, and kind of these turnkey solutions that have been alluded to for this project. So for this project, we started it at the end of 2017, actually the beginning of 2017, with a competitive bid process. We won the contract with UHS, and UHS stipulated that their goals were to save 20% of their HVAC energy costs with a 4-year blended simple payback. The unique component of this for our company, as mentioned, is that we are hiring the contractors to implement those measures. Traditionally, a retro-commissioning project would have a consultant that identified measures, and then the owner would then go out and solicit those contracts and bids and hire the contractors. But for us, in this program, GBA actually starts with the planning phase, which we have at about 2 months, where we go in, we identify the facility, we work with the site team, we review the building automation system, and do what we consider our boots on the ground work to basically to identify whether or not the site was even going to meet these project goals. And what we found is that some of the facilities don't. Some of the challenges that we've seen is that some of the sites really have more capital and infrastructure requirements needed and aren't really eligible initially for the retro-commissioning or monitoring-based commissioning process. You really need to have an active building automation system to be able to make modifications and launch a monitoring-based commissioning platform. So some struggles initially up front in identifying whether or not a facility was eligible. And that's kind of what comes out of the planning phase. So we say, yes, we think this site is eligible for 20% at this 4-year payback, which has to include our fees, our design services, any hiring the contractors, the installation of the equipment, and then the verification to show that all the savings have been met. So then we get into our investigation phase. Can you go back a slide, please? Where we do our boots on the ground work. We actually stroke valves. It's kind of like a true commissioning process of their equipment. We'll stroke valves and actuators and dampers. We'll test the sequence of operations on the air handlers and the chiller plant, and make sure that if there are any kind of O&M or maintenance type issues that we need to address, we can identify those and work with the facility. One of the sites, they had airflow measuring stations that hadn't been calibrated and cleaned in a few years, so we said before we make any modifications, we'd like you to do that, and that was a cost that the state did have to take under their budget, but the rest of the modifications that we make come from ours. So then we get into the implementation phase. That typically takes about 6 months. And after that, we get into verification where we have to prove to UHS that the savings we identified and the money that was spent meets their payback criteria. So next slide, please. So after we kind of get through what we consider like our traditional retro commissioning phase, we go into monitoring-based commissioning. We actually launch our software in our investigation phase. So we typically set up trends on the BAS if we can to help our initial investigation, but then we utilize the monitoring-based commissioning platform to leverage them for additional trending and identification of measures towards the end of the project. One of the biggest criteria for UHS was to show the persistence of the measures. So their thought is that if they're spending all this money and they want to see a 4-year payback, that then those measures have to persist for those 4 years to make sure that they see the benefit of their investment. So persistence is a big component for UHS. And then we do utilize the platform to identify additional measures and fine-tune the building automation system. Next slide. So this is the platform that we are using. It's Coppertree, their Kaizen platform. We actually started with BuildPulse, who then was bought out by Coppertree. So we did, that was a challenge for us in the middle of our program that we had to switch platforms and gears. We've seen a lot of benefit out of switching. What's unique about what was BuildPulse and now Coppertree is that they use Raspberry Pis to integrate to the building automation system, and not all systems have to have all of their data as BACnet, which is a benefit for some of the older facilities that have not gone through building automation system upgrades or had all of their data pulled forward that's BACnet available. So the Pi pushes all the data to the cloud, and then this is the dashboard that we get. You can see they've, next slide please. They do prioritize the faults that are identified. High and medium, we put those to like specific equipment levels, so that would be at the air handler level, the chiller plant and boiler plant level. On average, right now we're seeing anywhere from 40 to 925 faults on our platforms that we have currently operational. And then the medium and the low are more terminal unit level. And before this slide, you saw that there was a big savings identified box, and those savings kind of at the forefront of the project will say somewhere around $55,000. And then as we start implementing measures and whittling away and fixing different operational issues, those savings start to come down. And next slide, please. So this is a measure that we actually implemented, and this is trend data that's pulling through on the Kaizen platform. Was for a dining room air handling unit. You can see kind of left of that big bold red line was where the unit was running. The purple and the blue, the pink and the blue lines are the supply and return fans. They were running constantly throughout the day. And then after implementation, you see, next slide please. We actually did a static pressure reset, so that reduced the overall, kind of what we consider our peak energy consumption. That's that drop. And then the next slide please. Then we also did terminal unit setbacks, so now you see that during the weekends and at night the boxes, the airflow is reduced at the air handler level even more so. So this is really the key to show kind of the before and after picture and how we're able to analyze the data utilizing the platform, and then also to be able to look back and make sure that if all of a sudden the energy of the supply fan started creeping back up, there's obviously been a change to the space or maybe an override has happened. So this is how we kind of monitor to make sure that the measures we implement are continuing on. Next slide. So then we also have the Energy Information System platform, which is through Lucid Building OS. Right now we have, this is kind of the main dashboard that the client sees. There's 7 facilities currently integrated. We're working on more, but we have metrics that include electric, gas, water, and sewer. If all of those utility bills are available, we integrate them through the platform. Next slide. And then we also track our verified electric and energy savings through the platform. So we actually have Kaizen integrated to Lucid, which is really great because you can see like that top left graph. We've got air handler optimization, electric savings, medical gas equipment savings, boiler plant savings, natural gas savings, chill water savings. So we're actually able to show the client when they're expecting to see those savings come through during the year based on the measure that we actually implemented. Next. And then as I mentioned, we are integrating to the Kaizen platform, and one of the benefits is we actually can take the trends that we have set up in Kaizen and push those to the Lucid platform, and this is what we consider a carpet plot. This is the chilled water energy consumption. That dark red color is kind of the peak energy use. As what it's showing is that in June its highest energy is kind of first thing in the morning as it comes online, and then and then energy throughout the day and less at night. Next slide. So overall, we have over $9 million under contract at 14 sites, about $2.5 million in estimated savings. 4 sites are wrapping up their RCX phase. That was what we kind of started at the beginning of 2018. So we've seen savings from those sites as their savings come in, especially for measures that are towards air handlers or chilled water systems. It takes a year to accumulate those full savings, so those savings are rolling in as we expected. And then those first 4 sites are into their monitoring-based commissioning phase. So each month we issue a monitoring-based commissioning report to the site team. We work with them to identify and resolve any operation and maintenance type measures, and then also any new energy measures that can kind of come out of our capital budget. And then we have 5 sites that are in an implementation and then working on onboarding the monitoring-based commissioning platform, and then 5 more that we're investigating. So we had 14 sites that we kind of went after initially, and then there's 6 additional sites that we're still discussing with UHS if they want to move forward with any other type of work. As I mentioned before, some sites have more capital requirements needed, or they have a couple of hospitals that are operating so efficiently that 20% saving target might not be realistic. And so we talked to them about, maybe a 5% target or 10% might be more feasible, and how do we want to kind of modify the program to meet the needs and ability of the different facilities. So right now our program end date is scheduled for the end of 2020 with MBCx and EIS through another year of 2021, and then potential for a 1-year extension if the UHS chooses to move forward with it. So seen a lot of great success and had some unique challenges, but definitely shown some exciting results. So thank you very much for letting us share results with you.
Great. Thank you so much, Fiona. It's nice to see these projects having real long time frames to get all those savings and work through all the issues that you're finding. So we're going to go into the Q&A in just a second. I wanted to just mention there's one more award we're not going to have Altura present, but we have one more award in the fall called the Monitoring-Based Commissioning Service Provider Award. So we have one provider that's really helped out a lot of our campaign participants, and they've been kind of at the forefront of implementing FD&D on with a number of their clients, both on existing buildings and on new construction where they use it, similar to what Fiona was talking about in helping find issues, when systems are first coming online. So they call it connected commissioning. They've supported MGM Resorts, Los Alamos National Lab, UC Irvine, and UC Santa Cruz. And we just want to give also a shout out to Altura Associates for their work. We presented to them at the Building Commissioning Association conference, and that's the award there. All right, so we have a little bit of time for Q&A. I want to start off by, there's a question that happened a couple times about how are fault costs calculated. We've seen FD&D tools give estimated costs by fault. So this question is going to go to both Fiona with Coppertree, because there were some dollar numbers that there was a question on how that was calculated, and also Chris around Iconics with Swedish Medical Center. So Fiona, do you want to start by quickly sharing how you feel about the cost calculation within Property?
Sure. So we utilize those basically to help prioritize the estimates or prioritize which measures that we're going to investigate looking into. So we don't actually use those numbers to report back to UHS. Whenever we do decide to move forward with a correction or an energy measure, we do solicit the bids from contractors, or we get hard costs for those. So mostly there is an algorithm that Kaizen has built in to identify those costs, but we use them mostly for prioritization.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to that, Chris?
I do, and that's a great way to do things as well. Our fault costs, we've taken some of our lead from what Microsoft's done on their campus with their fault detection engineering, and the numbers that we plug in there, we actually calculate based off the metadata we grab from each individual piece, the amount of CFM expected or designed through that piece of equipment. We calculate the temperature differential, and it's an actual live engineered cost that's above and beyond the expected spend of that unit. So taking into account, how many heating days and cooling days there are in the year for our particular location, all that goes into account in estimating what the worst case scenario would be for the next 12 months if that particular fault were to continue. So it's an actual utility spend that would occur if that fault continues.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Here's a question for Darren at Vanderbilt. Can you describe your process for developing KPIs, especially when you're at the early stages of the project before you can visualize the data?
Well, for our process internally, this was mostly about convincing the administration that we had an opportunity here. And we, as campus energy manager, one of my responsibilities is to develop energy projects. So there was an awful lot of conversation about identifying faults at the building level. Our vendor provided an awful lot of information about what kind of faults they were identifying, throughout their business, and applying that kind of process to our buildings and actually going in and identifying some of those faults manually, if you will, myself. I was able to show the administration that we had these faults in our buildings, and frankly, there's not enough hours in the day for me to find them all. And we have this information in the building automation systems. It's just a matter of, do you have the time and the manpower to find them, to sort it out, and identify the solution for taking those corrective actions. So our process was to identify it to the administration, quantify the opportunity, and then frankly our method is to validate savings at the meter level. So as with the graphic that I showed, we were actually seeing a significant shift in the total energy consumption of the building, and it's measured at the metering, and we're seeing the before and after comparison to energy consumption.
Right there. Yeah.
That's sort of our process.
Great.
If you will.
One other just real brief question, if you give me the 30-second answer, how do you prioritize the issues and bring them to your team? And do you have an engineer reviewing the system periodically, or using these kind of automated reports?
Is that a question for me?
Yes, that's for you, Darren.
Okay. Yeah. So what we've done is we've hired our building logics team to provide quarterly analysis. We've got a building automation group, controls team, and basically we take those reports, we hand those reports to the building automation group, and it's that actionable intelligence. It's the work list, essentially, and those guys objectively one day may be performing some of this analysis, but right now they've got too much to say grace over, so they're running as fast as they can to fix problems, and so we're essentially hiring the building logic team to help us identify those issues.
Great, thanks. And I have time for one last question, if I can squeeze it in, for LBA Realty, probably for Roman. So how did the facility staff respond to the automated system optimization where the software is making automatic adjustments? Was it a challenging experience to let go of that control?
That's kind of that's an interesting sort of case-by-case question. We had a few chief engineers at the different properties who were really excited about the idea and love the concept, and then you'll have a few folks that tend to want to hold on to that control. The numbers sort of speak for themselves, so one of the good things with our partner is the fact that there is sort of an ongoing dialogue and some dialogue that takes place before we ever flip the switch, and I think that's made it better. Ultimately, everybody's on board and everybody appreciates the value.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, we're out of time. I wish we'd have more time for Q&A as always, but we had some really excellent presentations. It was nice to see what you all are doing. To wrap it up, I just want to say the Better Building Summit is now on the books in June of next year. So this is where you can do some networking with other Better Buildings partners and other owners there. And then finally, just next steps. If you're not already a Better Buildings Alliance member as an owner, you can join. We'll send you this deck so you have the direct link. And we want to keep you connected even when the campaign's over. So select the Energy Management and Information Systems checkbox when you join. Or if you've already joined, we can make sure that's connected for you on the back end. And then you'll keep connected and keep getting best practices and resources related to EMIS. So thank you so much for being a part of this webinar. Thank you to the presenters who did an excellent job sharing what they've been doing. And we're glad that they've been able to be so open about what they've learned and have other people learn from that process. So everyone, have a great day, and thanks again.